Welcome and welcome back to Thank God for Grace and Mercy. My name is Tony and this is Reading the Bible in a Year. Today is day 139 and we're going back into 2 Samuel and we're going to read verses 19 through 21. So yesterday was day 138. We read a whole bunch of Psalms, 26, 40, 58, 61 and 62 and 64. But instead of giving you 2 cents on all the Psalms from yesterday, I'd rather just spend this time this morning just to give you Tony's 2 cents on other stuff. So first off, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everyone who comes and watches this channel every day and who uses this to get closer to God. I mean, that's what I'm doing this for. I'm so glad you're here on this journey with me. I had someone from church, Gene, who told me that he listens every day and this has helped him immensely. And so I appreciate you being here, Gene. It's helped me immensely as well. And I appreciate everyone who comes and watches these videos and uses them to try to get closer to God. That's what I'm trying to do, and it's been amazing. So anyway, just wanted to thank you for being here. And something else I wanted to recognize was just, it takes a lot of discipline, right? It takes a lot of discipline for me to read the Bible every day. It takes a lot of discipline for you to tune in, find these videos, and to stay up watching them. And that's just something that we've kind of been covering in our men's small group, which again, small groups are amazing. And I get so much out of them, even if we're just kind of sitting around talking about God. It's time where I sit around and talk about God in my men's group, just with other men. And it's just amazing. And the thing we've been covering there has been, or one of the things we've covered is discipline. And, discipline isn't always fun. Discipline is rarely fun at all. But I've always believed, and I still believe, that discipline, at least in your personal life, is a key to freedom. And I think discipline in your religious walk is the key to building a stronger relationship with God, And what does that mean, having discipline in your religion? Well, to me, it means being disciplined enough to remember to pray, pray as often as I can. That takes discipline. Being disciplined enough to read the Bible and get in the Word and to talk to God and try to find His will for your life so you can align yourself with the will of God. And that's what I'm working on doing. It's difficult. It's really difficult to do. But it's what I'm trying to do, and it takes a lot of discipline to do there. So that's Tony's 2 cents for the day. Is I thank you for being here. Thank y'all for having discipline, and just it takes discipline, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So without further ado, let's get into Samuel and see what's going on with David today. So we'll say a short prayer and then we'll get into the word. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for wanting to build a relationship with us. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for all your blessings and gifts, Lord. Lord, we just want to be closer to you. We want to be closer to you by reading the word, by praying to you, Lord, and just help us do that, Lord. Help us all get closer to you. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. We want to be close to you and we want to understand. Lord, open our eyes to be able to see the message from today's reading, open our ears to hear it, and open our hearts to receive it. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So this is 2 Samuel, verses 19 through 21. 2 Samuel 19. David's grief for Absalom. Joab was told that David was weeping and lamenting over Absalom. The day's victory turned into a day of mourning as word passed through the army. David is grieving over his son. The army straggled back to the city that day, demoralized, dragging their tails, and the king held his face in his hands and lamented loudly, "O my son Absalom, Absalom, my dear, dear son." But in private, Joab rebuked the king. "Now you've done it. Knock the wind out of your loyal servants who have just saved your life, to say nothing of the lives of your sons and daughters, wives and concubines. What is this? Loving those who hate you and hating those who love you. Your actions give a clear message. Officers and soldiers mean nothing to you. You know that if Absalom were alive right now, we'd all be dead. Would that make you happy? Get hold of yourself. Get out there and put some heart into your servants. I swear to God that if you don't go to them, they'll desert. Not a soldier will be left here by nightfall, and that will be the worst thing that has happened yet." So the king came out and took his place at the city gate. Soon everyone knew, "Oh, look, the king has come out to receive us," and his whole army came and presented itself to the king. But the Israelites had fled the field of battle and gone home. Meanwhile, the whole populace was now complaining to its leaders. "Wasn't it the king who saved us time and time again from our enemies and rescued us from the Philistines? And now he has had to flee the country on account of Absalom. And now this Absalom, whom we made king, is dead in battle. So what are you waiting for? Why don't you bring the king back?" When David heard what was being said, he sent word to Zadok and Abiathar, the priests. "Ask the elders of Judah, why are you so laggard in bringing the king back home? You're my brothers. You're my own flesh and blood. So why are you the last ones to bring the king back home? And tell Amasa, you too are my flesh and blood. As God is my witness, I'm making you the permanent commander of the army in place of Joab." He captured the hearts of everyone in Judah. They were unanimous in sending for the king. "Come back, you and all your servants." So the king returned. He arrived at the Jordan just as Judah reached Gilgal on their way to welcome the king and escort him across the Jordan. Even Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjaminite from Bahurim, hurried down to join the men of Judah so he could welcome the king, 1,000 Benjaminites with him. And Ziba, Saul's steward, with his 15 sons and 20 servants, waded across the Jordan to meet the king and brought his entourage across, doing whatever they could to make the king comfortable. Shimei, son of Gera, bowed deeply in homage to the king as soon as he was across the Jordan and said, "Don't think badly of me, my master. Overlook my irresponsible outburst on the day my master the king left Jerusalem. Don't hold it against me. I know I sinned, but look at me now, the first of the tribe of Joseph to come down and welcome back my master the king." Abishai, son of Zeruiah, interrupted, "Enough of this. Shouldn't we kill him outright? Why, he cursed God's anointed." But David said, "What is it with you, sons of Zeruiah? Why do you insist on being so contentious? Nobody's going to be killed today. I am again king over Israel." Then the king turned to Shimei. "You're not going to die." And the king gave him his word. Next, Mephibosheth, grandson of Saul, arrived from Jerusalem to welcome the king. He hadn't combed his hair or trimmed his beard or washed his clothes from the day the king left until the day he returned safe and sound. The king said, "And why didn't you come with me, Mephibosheth?" "My master the king," he said. "My servant betrayed me. I told him to saddle my donkey so I could ride it and go with the king, for as you know, I am lame. And then he lied to you about me. But my master the king has been like one of God's angels. He knew what was right and did it. Wasn't everyone in my father's house doomed? But you took me in and gave me a place at your table. What more could I expect or ask?" "That's enough," said the king. "Say no more. Here's my decision. You and Ziba divide the property between you." Mephibosheth said, "Oh, let him have it all. All I care about is that my master the king is home, safe and sound." Barzillai, the Gileadite, had come down from Rogelim. He crossed the Jordan with the king to give him a good send-off. Barzillai was a very old man, 80 years old. He had supplied the king's needs all the while he was in Mahanaim, since he was very wealthy. "Join me in Jerusalem," the king said to Barzillai. "Let me take care of you." But Barzillai declined the offer. "How long do you think I'd live if I went with the king to Jerusalem? I'm 80 years old and not too much good anymore to anyone. Can't taste food, can't hear music, so why add to the burdens of my master the king? I'll just go a little way across the Jordan with the king. But why would the king need to make a great thing of that? Let me go back and die in my hometown and be buried with my father and my mother. But my servant Kimham here, let him go with you in my place, but treat him well." The king said, "That's settled. Kimham goes with me, and I will treat him well. If you think of anything else, I'll do that for you too." The army crossed the Jordan, but the king stayed. The king kissed and blessed Barzillai, who then returned home. Then the king, Kingham with him, crossed over Gilgal. The whole army of Judah and half the army of Israel processed with the king. The men of Israel came to the king and said, "Why have our brothers, the men of Judah, taken over as if they owned the king, escorting the king and his family and close associates across the Jordan?" The men of Judah retorted, "Because the king is related to us, that's why. But why make a scene? You don't see us getting treated special because of it, do you?" The men of Israel shot back, "We have 10 shares in the king to your 1. Besides, we're the firstborn. So why are we having to play second fiddle? It was our idea to bring him back." But the men of Judah took a harder line than the men of Israel. 2 Samuel 20. Just then, a good-for-nothing named Sheba, son of Bichri, the Benjaminite, blew a blast on the ram horn trumpet, calling out, "We've got nothing to do with David. There's no future for us with the son of Jesse. Let's get out of here, Israel. Head for your tents." So all the men of Israel deserted David and followed Sheba, son of Bichri. But the men of Judah stayed committed, sticking with their king all the way from the Jordan to Jerusalem. When David arrived home in Jerusalem, the king took the 10 concubines he had left to watch the palace and placed them in seclusion under guard. He provided for their needs but didn't visit them. They were virtual prisoners until they died, widows as long as they lived. The king ordered Amasa, "Muster the men of Judah for me in 3 days, then report in." Amasa went to carry out his orders, but he was late reporting back. So David told Abishai, "Sheba, son of Bichri, is going to hurt us even worse than Absalom did. Take your master's servants and hunt him down before he gets holed up in some fortress city where we can't get to him." So under Abishai's command, all the best men, Joab's men, and the Kerethites and the Pelethites left Jerusalem to hunt down Sheba, son of Bichri. They were near the boulder at Gibeon when Amasa came their way. Joab was wearing a tunic, with a sheathed sword strapped on his waist, but the sword slipped out and fell to the ground. Joab greeted Amasa, "How are you, brother?" and took Amasa's beard in his right hand as if to kiss him. Amasa didn't notice the sword in Joab's other hand. Joab stuck him in the belly, and his guts spilled to the ground. A second blow wasn't needed. He was dead. Then Joab and his brother Abishai continued to chase Sheba, son of Bichri. One of Joab's soldiers came up to his post over the body, took up his post over the body and called out, "Everyone who sides with Joab and supports David, follow Joab." Amasa was lying in a pool of blood in the middle of the road. The man realized the whole army was going to stop and take a look, so he pulled Amasa's horse off the road into the field and threw a blanket over him so it wouldn't collect spectators. As soon as he'd gotten him off the road, the traffic flowed normally, following Joab in the chase after Sheba, son of Bichri. Sheba passed through all the tribes of Israel as far as Abel Beth Maachah. All the Bichrites clustered and followed him into the city. Joab's army arrived and laid siege to Sheba and Abel Beth Maachah. They built a siege ramp up against the city's fortification. The plan was to knock down the wall. But a shrewd woman called out from the city, "Listen, everybody. Please tell Joab to come close so I can talk to him." When he had come, the woman said, "Are you Joab?" He said, "I am." Then she said, "Listen to what I have to say." He said, "I'm listening." There's an old saying in these parts. If it's answers you want, come to Abel and get it straight. We're a peaceful people here and reliable. And here you are trying to tear down one of Israel's mother cities. Why would you want to mess with God's legacy like that?" Joab protested, "Believe me, you've got me all wrong. I'm not here to hurt anyone or destroy anything. Not on your life. But a man from the hill country of Ephraim, Sheba, son of Bichri by name, revolted against King David. Hand him over, him only, and we'll get out of here." The woman told Joab, "Sounds good. His head will be tossed to you from the wall." The woman presented her strategy to the whole city, and they did it. They cut off the head of Sheba, son of Bichri, and tossed it down to Joab. He then blew a blast on the ram's horn trumpet, and the soldiers all went home. Joab returned to the king in Jerusalem. Joab was again commander of the whole army of Israel. Benai, son of Jehoiada, was over the Kethites and the Pelethites. Adoniram over the work crews. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was clerk. Sheva was historian. Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Ira the Jerite was David's chaplain. 2 Samuel 21. Famine and war. There was a famine in David's time. It went on year after year after year, 3 years. David went to God seeking the reason. God said, "This is because there is blood on Saul and his house from the time he massacred the Gibeonites." So the king called the Gibeonites together for consultation. The Gibeonites were not part of Israel. They were what was left of the Amorites and protected by a treaty with Israel. But Saul, a fanatic for the honor of Israel and Judah, tried to kill them off. David addressed the Gibeonites. "What can I do for you? How can I compensate you so that you will bless God's legacy of land and people?" The Gibeonites replied, "We don't want any money from Saul and his family, and it's not up to us to put anyone in Israel to death." But David persisted. "What are you saying I should do for you?" Then they told the king, "The man who tried to get rid of us, who schemed to wipe us off the map of Israel. Well, let 7 of his sons be handed over to us to be executed, hanged before God at Gibeah of Saul, the holy mountain." And David agreed, "I'll hand them over to you." The king spared Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of the promise David and Jonathan had spoken before God. But the king selected Armoni and Mephibosheth, the 2 sons that Rizpah, daughter of Aiah, had borne to Saul, plus the 5 sons that Saul's daughter Merab had borne to Adriel, son of Barzillai, the Maholathite. He turned them over to the Gibeonites, who hanged them on the mountain before God. All 7 died together. Harvest was just getting underway, the beginning of the barley harvest, when they were executed. Rizpah, daughter of Aiah, took rough burlap and spread it out for herself on a rock from the beginning of the harvest until the heavy rain started. She kept the birds away from the bodies by day and the wild animals by night. David was told what she had done, this Rizpah, daughter of Aiah, and the concubine of Saul. He then went and got the remains of Saul and Jonathan, his son, from the leaders at Jabesh Gilead, who had rescued them from the town square at Bethshan, where the Philistines had hung them after striking them down at Gilboa. He gathered up their remains and brought them together with the dead bodies of the 7 who had just been hanged. The bodies were taken back to the land of Benjamin and given a decent burial in the tomb of Kish, Saul's father. They did everything the king ordered to be done. That cleared things up. From then on, God responded to Israel's prayers for the land. War broke out again between the Philistines and Israel. David and his men went down to fight. David became exhausted. Ishbi-Benob, a warrior descended from Rapha, with a spear weighing nearly 8 pounds and outfitted in brand new armor, announced that he'd killed David. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to the rescue, struck the Philistine, and killed him. Then David's men swore to him, "No more fighting on the front lines for you. Don't snuff out the lamp of Israel." Later there was another skirmish with the Philistines at Gob. This time Sibbecai, the Hushathite, killed Saph, another of their warriors descended from Rapha. As yet another battle with the Philistines at Gob, Elhanan, son of Jar, the weaver of Bethlehem, killed Goliath the Gittite, whose spear was as big as a flagpole. Still another fight broke out in Gath. There was a giant there with 6 fingers on his hands and 6 toes on his feet, 24 fingers and toes. He was another of those descended from Rapha. He insulted Israel, and Jonathan, son of Shemaiah, David's brother, killed him. These 4 were descended from Rapha and Gath, and they all were killed by David and his soldiers. Recap. Day 139, 2 Samuel 19 through 21. David mourns Absalom's death. Joab rebukes him for not being more grateful for the victory and for letting his enemy's death weigh him down. David responds to his rebuke, putting a stop to his grief and going home to Jerusalem to appear before the people. But it seems like he harbors resentment for Joab's harsh words. The people of Israel aren't sure what to do with David now. Should they still regard him as king? The responses are divided along tribal lines. David's tribe of Judah has one opinion, and the rest of Israel has another. Judah is hesitant about reinstating him. As he tries to convince their leaders to reinstate him, he unexpectedly replaces Joab, the commander of his army, with Amasa, who was commander of Absalom's army 24 hours earlier. This could be motivated by David's bitterness over Joab's rebuke, or by David's desire to get Judah back on his side. Regardless, Judah reinstates him. This probably feels like a slap in the face to Joab, even though he sticks by David. Once David is king again, he pardons a bunch of his enemies. Shimei, the man who cursed at him, comes groveling before him, and David makes an oath not to kill him. Then Mephibosheth tells David an entirely different version of the story from what he heard from Ziba when he brought David the gifts in 16:1-4. Mephibosheth said he didn't try to take the kingdom away from David, and David seems to believe him. David has already given Ziba all of Mephibosheth's blessings, so he offers to split things up 50-50 in order to honor his commitment to both men, even though at least one of them is lying. He also makes a generous offer to Barzillai, one of the men who brought him food and provisions in exile. Barzillai rejects it and suggests David take another man, probably his son, back to Jerusalem with him. Judah and the rest of Israel are still divided about David, but the tables have turned. Judah backs David and the other tribes oppose him. The Benjaminites, Saul's tribe, think a Benjaminite should be king. A Benjaminite named Sheba calls for the men of Israel to leave David's army, and they do. David knows this is a problem, so he calls on his new military commander, Amasa, to gather their army and attack. Amasa procrastinates, so David calls in the second string, including Joab, the former commander. How awkward. When Amasa shows up, Joab pretends to greet him, but stabs him instead. With Amasa dead, Joab resumes his role as commander and goes after Sheba. He besieges the city where Sheba is hiding. He's ready to destroy the whole city, but a peaceable, faithful woman reasons with him. There's no reason for you to kill us all. Just tell us what you want. Joab says they're here for Sheba, and she promises to toss his head over the wall, which she does, eliminating the most recent threat to David's throne. She's praised for her wisdom, and she saves an entire city. When David asks God about a famine they're experiencing, God says it's because of Saul's sins. David has inherited not only the kingdom, but the consequences of the previous king's decisions. Saul killed some Gibeonites after promising to spare them, so David asked them how he can make it right. They want to kill 7 of Saul's descendants. David doesn't seem to consult God on the matter, and he decides it's better for 7 people to die than for many more people to die from famine. God never endorses David's response, and in fact, the famine continues even after the men are killed and doesn't cease until they're buried. While some scholars view as a sign that God is displeased with David's actions. Today's God shot. God takes sin seriously. Israel is suffering because a dead king broke a promise. His sin happened a long time ago, but God cares about justice. He can be trusted to handle those things, which means we don't have to take matters into our own hands. We can pursue Him instead of vengeance. We can love both Him and our enemies. When we're wronged, God can be trusted to work on our behalf in the hearts of those who have wronged us. And when we've wronged others, He works in us on their behalf. He's working to restore all things, including not only our stories, but our hearts. He's where the joy is. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll be back reading again tomorrow.